Hey everyone, welcome back. If you've ever been the invisible one in your family, the one nobody brags about at the dinner table, this story is for you. My name is Meredith Fisher. At 33, I had designed data systems that processed 400 million transactions every single day across 9 states. But to my own family, I was the failure. My brother Liam actually said it at his own wedding in front of 200 guests, standing next to the bride's multi-millionaire father. My mother backed him up with her favorite line, "We don't brag about her." Then Gerald Calloway, the man Liam was desperately trying to impress, went still and said 5 words that cracked the evening wide open. "So, it's you." This is unexpected. To understand how we got there, you need to know the Fishers. We had exactly one success story, and it wasn't me. It was Liam. He dropped out of a business program to launch Viridia, a data intelligence startup that raised $11 million before his 30th birthday. Meanwhile, I built things nobody at home could see. At Halcyon Systems, I was a senior data architect. The system I designed, Cascade, was a real-time orchestration engine handling pipelines for finance, logistics, and healthcare. Swipe a debit card in the Southeast? My architecture likely touched that transaction. My colleague joked I was the ghost who built the spine of the place. I designed the bones. Other people walked around in the body. My mother had a habit of introducing me as the daughter who does computer things. At a dinner with neighbors, she waved her hand and said, "We don't brag about her, the way you'd say you don't keep dessert in the house." A household policy. Liam grinned. My father studied his plate. What they never mentioned was that my parents had pulled $140,000 from their retirement savings to fund Liam's Series A shortfall. They believed in him. They had staked their security on a company they couldn't accurately describe in a single sentence. For years earlier, Liam called me at 11 at night. He was 26, 3 months into Viridia, and panicking. He'd pitched investors on a proprietary real-time data engine, but he didn't have one, just a pitch deck, a leased office, and a demo running on a spreadsheet macro. "I just need the core module for the demo," he said. "I'll hire a real team after the round closes." My mother had called twice that week to say Liam was under pressure. My father sent a rare text, "He could use your help, Mare." So I helped. For 3 weeks, on my personal laptop, I built a functional prototype. A stripped-down data routing engine using my own methodology, naming conventions, and logic patterns. We signed a consulting agreement. Liam promised $10,000 and co-architect credit. He paid me $1,500. The credit never appeared. 14 months later, Viridia's public product page described their proprietary engine. I recognized it instantly, same architecture, same module structure, same variable names in the API documentation. Liam had renamed the modules, changed the dashboard colors, and called it innovation. I said nothing. I filed the consulting agreement in a blue folder and went back to building things that worked. 6 weeks before the wedding, I was in my Charlotte apartment when my phone buzzed. They'd added me back to the Fisher family group chat, the one I'd been removed from 3 weeks earlier. Liam's message, "Are you coming or not? Don't make it weird." My mother followed, "Meredith, please just confirm." Sienna's family is very particular about head counts. Sienna Calloway was Liam's fiancée, daughter of Gerald Calloway, the venture capitalist whose fund licensed infrastructure built on systems I'd helped architect at Halcyon. My father, a man who communicated mostly through silence, typed, "It would mean a lot, Mare." That was the most he'd said to me in a text in 2 years. 2 weeks before the wedding, I drove to my parents' house in Gastonia. Liam was in the kitchen eating a sandwich our mother had cut diagonally. He looked up and grinned. "Every family needs one success and one cautionary tale, right, Mare?" My mother laughed. My father looked at his hands. Before I left, Liam caught me at the door. "You're coming to the wedding. I need you there. Sienna's dad is old school. Wants to see the whole family. Just show up. Be normal. Don't talk about work." Don't talk about work, the one thing that was entirely mine, and my brother wanted me to leave it at the door like muddy shoes. 3 weeks before the wedding, Viridia was everywhere. Liam landed a feature in a regional tech publication, The Quiet Disruptor, How One Founder Built a Data Engine That Could Change the Game. The technical description was almost word for word from the architecture spec I'd written 4 years earlier. My mother posted it in the family chat with champagne emojis. Our boy. Liam appeared on a podcast, describing technology he didn't build, using terminology he'd learned from my spec. He sounded confident, credible, and his engine was real because I had made it real. I just wasn't part of the story. My mother called on a Thursday evening. Meredith, I need you to be supportive at the wedding. Sienna's family is important. Gerald Calloway is not like us, he pays attention. So don't talk about technical things. Don't bring up Halcyon. Don't say anything that makes Liam feel like you're competing. For once, just let your brother have his moment. For once. As if I'd ever tried to take one. 10 days before the wedding, Liam messaged me directly, "Can you take a quick look at some technical documentation before a meeting? Just a review, like an hour max family favor." I scrolled up through the chat history they'd kept me out of and found a message from Liam to my mother. "Don't worry. She won't understand what's happening anyway. She just builds back-end stuff." The code that ran his entire company was back-end stuff. I typed, "Send me the documents." He sent a 6-page technical summary of Viridia's infrastructure. I read it in 14 minutes. The architecture overview was mostly right because he was describing my work, but the scalability projections were fabricated, throughput numbers inflated by a factor of 3, and the section labeled Proprietary Innovation described a load distribution algorithm I'd published in a Halcyon white paper 2 years earlier. Liam hadn't just borrowed my code, he'd built an entire narrative around it. I closed the document and didn't reply. During a stand-up meeting at Halcyon, our VP of Client Relations mentioned that Calloway Ventures had recently renewed their enterprise license for Cascade. Gerald Calloway apparently reviewed the architecture documentation himself when they first signed. He told our sales team it was some of the cleanest system design he'd seen in 20 years. She looked at me. "That was your work, Meredith." I nodded. But a small cold wire connected 2 points in my head. Gerald Calloway knew Cascade. Gerald Calloway was about to invest in Viridia. Viridia's engine was Cascade's younger sister. Same bones, same logic, same handwriting. If Calloway's team ran technical due diligence, they'd find code patterns matching Cascade at a foundational level. And if they looked at authorship, they'd find the name M. Fisher. 2 weeks before the wedding, my father called. "Meredith, your mother and we've got a lot riding on this. The wedding, the business, all of it. I just need this to work out for him. We put everything in." Everything. He meant the $140,000. They'd bet their security on a company built on borrowed architecture and inflated numbers. Then a LinkedIn message arrived from Devin Pratt, senior technical analyst at Calloway Ventures, during our code review. We identified architectural patterns and module structures that closely align with published documentation attributed to your work on Cascade at Halcyon Systems. We would appreciate the opportunity to discuss provenance and authorship of certain foundational components. This is standard due diligence. I read it 3 times. I opened the bottom drawer, pulled out the blue folder, and laid it flat. Inside, the signed consulting agreement with Liam's slanted signature, a commit log showing 47 commits over 21 days, all authored by M. Fisher, a 3-page architecture spec with my shorthand and a coffee ring, and Liam's email at 2 a.m. "Can you just make the demo work? I'll handle the rest." Everything was there. I replied that I was available for a call. The rehearsal dinner was at a vineyard. My place card was at a table near the kitchen door. Liam and Sienna sat at the head table with Gerald and Sienna's mother. When introductions went around, Liam said, "And this is my sister, Meredith. She works with computers." A man at a corner table with wire-rimmed glasses tilted his head when he heard my name. After dinner, he stopped by. "Meredith Fisher? I think I saw your name on a pipeline architecture panel in Atlanta. Scalable orchestration." I nodded. He smiled and walked away. Someone in that room had recognized my actual work. On the drive home, I realized Liam's strategy. He needed me to be small, visibly, publicly, undeniably small. If Meredith Fisher ever came up in conversation with Gerald's technical team, Liam needed the room's memory of me to be a quiet woman at a back table who worked with computers, a nobody. Then anything I said later about Viridia's code would sound like bitterness, like a failure trying to drag down a success. What none of them knew was that Gerald's team had already been in my inbox. The due diligence was running. The architect flagged in their review wasn't an anonymous contractor. She was sitting at table 9, eating salmon, being introduced as the family failure. The wedding was at Callaway Estate. 22 acres of rolling lawn, a stone manor house, marble floors. I arrived at 4 o'clock in a navy dress I'd bought 2 years earlier. The ceremony was brief and beautiful. Sienna looked luminous. Liam looked like a man who'd rehearsed his tears. My seat at the reception was at the outer ring, table 11, near a side exit. Liam found me near the bar. You're at 11. It's a great table. You can see the whole room. Translation. I could be seen by nobody. He took my elbow and walked me through the crowd. This is my sister. She's in IT. To a groomsman, Meredith, she's the quiet one. When Sienna's mother asked what I did, my mother jumped in. She's in tech support, I think. Something like that. When Liam squeezed my arm and whispered, see? Nobody cares, Mare. Just relax, I pulled my arm free. You can introduce me. You don't get to script me. Gerald Callaway entered at 6:30. Tall, gray at the temples, wearing his suit like it owed him nothing. Liam was magnetic, telling a story about Viridia's latest partnership. Gerald listened without interrupting, watching Liam the way an engineer watches a system under load. Then Liam spotted me. His eyes lit up with utility. Dad, come here. You haven't met my sister yet. He pulled me toward the circle. This is our family failure, Liam announced, grinning wide enough for surrounding tables to hear. He laughed. My mother added her signature line, we don't brag about her. Guests chuckled politely. I stood still, back straight, face neutral. 33 years of being the punchline, and I was finished laughing on cue. Gerald turned slowly and looked directly at me. Not at Liam. Not at my parents. At me. His brow drew together. So, it's you, he said quietly. This is unexpected. Liam's grin froze. Do you two know each other? Gerald didn't look at Liam. Ms. Fisher. Cascade. Halcyon Systems. I nodded. Yes. Your architecture runs in 11 of my portfolio companies. 12, I said. MedSync migrated to Cascade in January. Gerald's jaw tightened. Devon's report flagged the provenance issue last week. I assumed the M. Fisher in the authorship records was a former contractor. Or a coincidence. You're his sister. And you built the foundational modules that Viridia's engine is based on. I didn't hesitate. I wrote the original architecture. The consulting agreement is dated 4 years ago. The commit history is mine. Liam stepped between us. She's exaggerating. She helped with an early prototype. That's it. She wrote a few lines of code 4 years ago. Gerald tilted his head. The module architecture in your engine matches Cascade's published design patterns at a structural level. Devon's report identified naming conventions, dependency trees, and routing logic that are functionally identical. Can you explain the load distribution algorithm in your core pipeline? Liam stammered. The technical team handles the specifics. I'm the CEO. I focus on strategy. Gerald pressed. The algorithm. It's a weighted round robin with adaptive latency thresholds. Your documentation says it's proprietary. Can you describe how it works? Liam opened his mouth, closed it. He looked at me with panicked recognition. My mother stood. Gerald, this is a wedding. This isn't the time. My father hushed her quietly. Gerald looked at me. Ms. Fisher, I'm going to ask you something directly. Is the core engine of Viridia your original work? Yes, I said clearly. The core engine of Viridia is based on a data routing prototype I built over 3 weeks 4 years ago. The architecture follows a design spec I wrote myself. The commit history is entirely mine. I signed a consulting agreement with my brother, which he did not honor. No payment in full, no co-architect credit. The codebase was never formally assigned to Viridia. I built it on my own time, on my own equipment, outside the scope of my Halcyon employment agreement, and the IP was never transferred. Liam's face went red. You're doing this here? At my wedding. Gerald cut him off. The IP was never assigned. If the core architecture isn't owned by the company, the investment can't proceed. This isn't personal. It's due diligence. My mother's face turned chalk white. Gerald told Liam, she's not lying. I've used her architecture. I've read her documentation. I know what her systems look like from the inside. Your engine is her work. Liam unraveled. You did this on purpose. You came here to ruin this for me. He spun toward a display table, grabbed his rising founder trophy, and hurled it. It slipped, hit the marble floor, and shattered. Crystal fragments slid everywhere. Sienna watched from the dance floor, her expression shifting from shock to recalibration. My mother tried to salvage. Meredith has always had issues. She's jealous. She doesn't understand business. Gerald said, your daughter's architecture is licensed by my fund. Her published work is referenced in 3 industry white papers. The system she designed handles more daily transactions than any product in my current portfolio. In my industry, she's one of the most respected infrastructure architects in the Southeast. My mother, desperate, asked, if she's so successful, why didn't she ever say something? Why didn't she help her brother properly? Even then, she made it my fault. My father pulled me aside near the coat room. The retirement. We put in $140,000. Is it gone? I didn't know. My mother appeared. Meredith, you need to fix this. I said I didn't break it. You told me to come. Liam told me to come. She cracked. I just wanted one thing to be proud of. Then hardened. You should have stayed quiet. You owed us that. I walked toward the exit. Gerald found me under the portico. The investment in Viridia is not proceeding. That decision was made before tonight based on the technical review. What happened in there just accelerated the timeline. I owe you an apology for not connecting the name on the report to the person in the room sooner. Your work speaks for itself. Always has. I thanked him and walked to my car. The fallout arrived in packets. Callaway Ventures formally withdrew from Viridia's Series A within 72 hours. 2 other investors pulled back within a week. Viridia didn't collapse overnight, but the scaffolding was gone. The wedding was postponed. Sienna moved back to her parents' estate. In the family chat, my father wrote, "Are you doing all right, Mare?" My mother wrote nothing for 3 days, then, "You could have told us." I replied once, "I'm open to talking when the conversation starts with respect. Not before." I went back to Halcyon the following Monday. Cascade was still running, 400 million transactions a day, 9 states, 0 fanfare. My colleague Nora brought me a coffee and said, "You look like someone who finally exhaled." I accepted the invitation to speak at the Infrastructure Summit in Atlanta. Not because Gerald Callaway gave me permission, but because I'd spent a decade building systems that held the weight of industries while my family called me a failure to my face. I was finished letting their vocabulary define mine. The failure was never me. It was a family that measured worth by volume, by who talked the loudest, who raised the most money, who could fill a room with the sound of their own mythology. I had filled rooms with infrastructure, with reliability, with the kind of quiet, invisible work that people only notice when it breaks. And mine never broke. Your worth was never something they had to brag about for it to be real. It was always doing its quiet work. Steady as a pulse. With or without their applause. If you've ever been the one nobody bragged about, let this be your sign. Stop shrinking.